So I just thought I'd explain quickly what I've been doing on my internal corners with the skirting board, and I'll show you the external ones in a minute. Now on your internal miters, the joins with your skirting board, there's various ways to work this out and to do it, and I'll show you those specifically, I think, in sort of how-to separate videos. And what I've done though is I'll put a link to those on the screen now. If you look, I actually cut this one vertically this way just then, like that, just to give it a go. But unfortunately, as I thought, my saw is too small for this size skirting board, and a piece of timber just flicked up in there and it's getting a bit dangerous. So I'm going to have to do it down on the side like that. Now, what I mean is, when I had it up here, if you've got a large enough saw, you can just turn it at a 45-degree angle and take it down vertically. Now, on more expensive chop saws, you also have a bracket, which will, if you put that there, it will come over the top and you can clamp it back to that guide rail. Now, on this one, I've got a clamp that goes down, because obviously this chop saw really, if it gets too big, you've got to put them flat. So what I'm going to have to do is turn this chop saw around, and it's usually a little bit messier, it's not quite as nice a cut. On MDF it doesn't really matter, if I'm honest. What we do then is get my lever, which is, there we go, it's over there. We turn this down at 45 degrees like that. To get that cut, your chop saw's that way. Now rather than keep changing the chop saw over, if you want to do the opposing internal corner on your next piece of timber, I'll turn that piece of timber upside down, cut it like that. When you turn it round, you'll have the reverse angle, and that will be the angle that will fit into this one. So just to show you what I was talking about, I'm going to do the piece of skirting now that's going into the piece we just saw. So this piece I've cut just over the length I need, so it's easier to work with. And now, with the skirting upside down this time, I'm going to cut at 45 this direction, and that should meet nicely into the one we just cut. So you can see now, by cutting this one placed upside down and this one the right way round, you put them together and that fits nicely like that. Obviously the one problem you will encounter when doing this is if you've only got one chop saw, you also have to do your straight cuts as well, so you have to lift the saw back up occasionally, but there we go. I'm just going to show you something else with a bit more detail, and this is how to do like a stop end. Now in this scenario here, I've got this small bit of timber there, not big enough to take 2 bits of architrave. Now I could have cut down the architrave to make it smaller and then put a slip of skirting board between the two. However, I didn't want to do that because I want the full size architrave to match the bit on the other side of the door frame. So here I've got a bit of architrave on this wall coming this way because I wanted to basically hide the joint between this timber and the plasterboard wall. So here I'm left with this small section. Now you could just fill it and leave it, but I would like to have a little bit of skirting board. Now the problem you're left with there is if you put skirting board there and just chop it like that, you end up with the grain or the cross grain. I mean, in this situation it's just MDF, but it looks a bit unfinished, if you like. So the way around this, and this particular example I've got here to show you is actually the other way round, that's for the other side, but I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, is you basically do 2 opposing outside 45-degree cuts, and then when you place them together you end up with a nice finished end like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is my outside 45-degree edge on this one, and to do that I'm going to pull the chop saw down and I'm going to turn this piece upside down so it cuts it in that direction. So there's my first cut. Now I'm going to turn this piece upside down to get the 45-degree angle that I need, and then we can do a nice straight cut down the other side. So now we're going to do our 90-degree cut straight down the bit we just cut, and that will then fit on the other side. And so all I've done there is just marked where it meets the 45 angle, and so I can put a mark on the front for my cut. And then when you piece those two together, you've got the return join that I want. Now all I need to do is go and offer this up and cut this one down to size. So all I'm doing there is putting that in position so I can see where that's going to butt up with this piece of timber, and I want it about there to match the exposed bit of timber there. And there we go. So my skirting board's cut for half the room. I'm going to tack that on now with my adhesive. Then I'm going to work my way around, cut the rest of the boards once I've tidied this side up, and then I'm going to stick those on as well. A bit dark now, but you can see skirting's on. I had to trim that one around the chimney breast where it goes down into that wall. Obviously architrave, already seen that. We turn around, you've got your skirting board going down there. Sorry, a bit of rubbish in the way. Skirting board going right inside, all the way around the room, and then all down the side, down there you can see. Around the back, I've moved all my tools back now. I kept it a few inches off the wall just to let the skirting board go off. All down here, architrave, more skirting, architrave, and skirting in the corner. And finally down here we had this one underneath the chimney breast, and that I used like a template. I cut or scribed a bit onto another piece of a short offcut basically of skirting board, cut it down to size and wedged it in until I got it right. I did the same on that side, and then I just applied that to my skirting board on one end, and gradually took it down that shape until I got it into place over there. So that fits really nicely now over there and over there. So it's actually the next day now, we got a bit more light, so I just thought I'd show you the skirting over there underneath the chimney breast, piece cut in there over the chimney, that there. I've had a tidy up. I did have a tidy up, but you can't see everything, sorry, because of the tools in the way, but you can see now skirting architrave's all on. I'll come over here. Again, we got it all the way around the room now. So we got the hip rafters sanded down. I've been using the sander, as you saw, my Makita random orbital sander for the majority of it, but obviously there's angles I couldn't get into, so I've had to go around and finish it off by hand. I did that with a 40 grit sandpaper, so I've just sort of taken off all that rough edge. It's quite smooth actually now. I'll probably go over it with a fine sandpaper then eventually, and then I'm going to go over that with probably a gloss, like a coloured gloss, and I'm going to try and match it into the same colour as the chimney breast, I think, just to make a bit of a feature of it. So I'm not being too precious about it because it's going to have a colour over it, but I just wanted it nice and smooth because that timber is obviously, it's over 120 years old, you know, it's rough sawn, it was quite rough, and it was very sharp edges, so I've just rounded off the edges as well, so you don't give yourself a good clout if you ever catch it with your head. Now the next task for me to do is go around all these holes for the sockets and fit my dry lining boxes. Now with these dry lining boxes, I've obviously cut the hole in the past with just a quick template of one of the ones I did. Where the plaster's gone in slightly, or if there's a little bit of plasterboard needs removing, I'm just using this. I found my Stanley Fat Max, this is pretty good, this one. It cuts both directions really well. And obviously it folds up as well, so it's quite handy if you want to keep it in your pocket. It's not going to stab you in the leg. And then the dry lining box itself, you've got your cutouts in the bottom, the top and the back. So according to which way your cable's coming in, you just remove the hole you want. I mean, you could remove all three if you wanted to, just in case at a later date you wanted to push something through. But yeah, very simple, push into place, push the plastic clips behind the plasterboard, and then when you screw your socket on eventually, it pulls these back towards it, tighten it into the plasterboard. So what you can see, I've got two of these boxes down here, and I've actually got two at the top as well, and this is where I'm going to be having a desk. And these days, with all the appliances we all have, I thought best to have some sockets above the desk because I will be using it as a bit of an office. So I've pre-drilled holes down the back of this, down through the old purlin that's tucked behind here. So I'm just going to run some cables down to there now and stick them out. So here's a piece of cable that I ran out and bent back down, left continuous so I could keep using that one socket that's up in the loft basically. And then it's what I'll do eventually. These boxes I can obviously remove them easy enough even after I've painted the wall. but we'll just snip it there, leave a short piece of cable in there. Then this other one we can take to the other socket, and then basically using other pieces of cable we can sort of run them up to the next socket, the next one, and back down, looping them all together. So that's the idea. Is all I'm going to do quickly is run some cables up through the hole that I've drilled in that purlin, leave them sticking out the back just so I know where everything is. I need to do that before I put this sill down on top. These are the things you've got to remember as you're going along, because I almost forgot then. I was moving on to the next one, then suddenly thought, hang on, I got no cables going to that. So it's just trying to remember what you've done and what you're planning out, because I don't want to be banging holes through these freshly plastered walls. This one here, I just have to take the socket off and back on. I'm just using this is my little lamp sort of socket tester. I like to use this once I've done something just to check everything's alright. You just pop that in, turn the power on, you get a beep, 2 green lights. So that's all good. Try that one, all good. And if you look on there, it just sort of tells you as a quick indicator if something's missing or one of your connections is loose. And by the way the lights flash or appear on this, it gives you a quick indicator. Obviously your electrics need testing afterwards, but it's handy just to zip around with that in a socket, especially if you've got any problems, because sometimes it could just be a loose connection. Pop that in, and you know, things like a missing earth or a loose wire, use this and you can find out without whipping the sockets off the wall. And I got this lap voltage detector as well, and these two came as a pair in a little kit. I'll put a link to these in the description section below if you like. So here we go, just one hole left, and that's for the light switch on the landing. And I didn't have the single pattress box before to mark out the hole, so that's why I just drilled a hole and pulled the cables through. So I've got to do that now, being careful not to cut through these cables. I'm just going to do that with my multi-tool. So ear defender's on. Let's get on with it. So I'm going to give you a quick look around, because I've just had a nice tidy up, a good clean, stacked everything to one side. I've run the hoover all over the place, down the stairs. I got rid of all the dust ready for sticking the paint on the wall. So let's have a quick look before we start painting, and we've got something to compare it to later on. Taking a look around the room, you see now skirting, architrave, everything's nice and clean around here. There we are. Okay, so nothing's really changed since I showed you earlier, but just I've had a tidy up so you can actually see the floor now. So I've stacked my tools away, got all my tools under that nice cupboard space. It's going to come in handy when the loft is done. More tools over there, I've got a lot of stuff to get back downstairs.